Hey, this is News Rocky coming to you live Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. from 80 Broadway, downtown Norwich at the Pie Hop Studio. News Rocky, hey guys, I just got out of rehab, political rehab, taking on fake news, and we know there's plenty of that out there. So tune in each and every day, get your full complement of all the fake news. We'll drill down on it harder than a pile driver on the WWE wrestler. Hey guys, welcome to News Rocky, and this is Kevin, your host, coming to you live from the Pie Hop Studio in downtown Norwich at 80 Broadway. We come to you live each and every day, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m., bringing this new content to the nation, to the world, everywhere. The internet's got us spreading all over the world like a wildfire. The News Rocky, people want to know what we're talking about. Well, we talk about a lot of conversations here about politics of the day, the fake media, how things are out there, how things are maybe being driven by the corporate media. We also talk each week with what we call our partners, the Back the Blue of Southeastern Connecticut, this wonderful organization that got put together to support the men and women in blue across this area. We also talk a lot about issues of the day when it comes to the politics of how this past summer, the election. We get into it all, but today we have a special guest that we're going to bring on in a moment. And let me take a moment to talk about why it was important to have Mr. Kurt Erickson, representative of the COPS program, which is an organization that is located down in the southern part of the state of Connecticut, where this co-founder, along with several other activists, got involved in an incident that took place in opposition to Blue Lives Matters and in support of the Black Lives Matters movement in West Haven, Connecticut this past summer. There is actually a reason why we think this important conversation with Kurt is really pivotal right now. The bottom line is there's a national issue going across this country where many folks are trying to battle over this very topic. This issue that took place in West Haven, Connecticut, has a lot of ramifications. It not only includes Kurt, who was injured from a taser, it also includes a named police officers and or officers. We'll find out more details in the story when we bring Kurt on, but it's going to be a very interesting conversation. Clearly, we're not here to have a fight. It's called News Rocky, but we don't have to get in the ring. We can sit down with our chairs and have a nice conversation and try to walk away understanding each other about this very important topic. So I want to go to the line here and introduce Kurt Erickson of West Haven, Connecticut, who, again, was introduced in the beginning. You were involved in this altercation that took place down in West Haven this past summer. And I'd love to encourage the folks to get a chance to go out there and look at this situation. Again, Kurt Erickson, West Haven Police Department claim against a police officer and the department. Kurt, welcome to the show.
How are you doing?
I am doing good, man. I am doing good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. No problem.
Perfect. I got to tell you, I want to open up with this. I was quite jealous. As you see, I'm a bald guy. And when you were wrapping that hair into the bun up there, I see I have a lot more hair than me, man. So I'm jealous right off the bat. Hey,
it's all gray, so don't let it fool you.
Well, that's why I shaved mine, brother, because I got rid of the gray. You know what I mean? It's all good. It's all good. So welcome again. Let's hear a little bit about you. I mean, you're an interesting guy, and I got a chance to do some research about you when we were getting ready for the show. And let's hear about, Kurt Erickson. What's your life like? What do you do? And, kind of we'll walk into this incident that took place, and we'll go from there. So, Kurt, tell me a little bit about you, bud.
So I own a garage door company. It's a 10-year established garage door company. I service, all of Connecticut, basically. Productive member of society. And I also started this nonprofit with my friends of mine this summer in July called COPS, Citizens Opposed to Police States. We're not opposed to police, but we're opposed to, how policing is done currently, so, which is, demonstrative of a police state in our opinion,
Mm-hmm. So you got a business down there in West Haven. You say 10 years, been doing the business. You become interested in activism, and you never have done this before. You've never had this energy in your life where you want to go out and protest. Kurt, if we lose Kurt's signal, what we do have is a backup plan coming in. Kurt, you still there? In the meantime, if you can hear me, we can hear you. So the question to
You can hear me? Can you see me?
I can't, but we'll get you up there in a minute. There you are. You're back with us, brother. All right. Looks like we got you back on. The technology is a beautiful thing, huh?
Yeah, right. We had a backup plan here.
There it is. So we'll go with the backup plan. Kurt, I was asking the question. You're kind of led into, where you are in your life and what you're doing. And, it sounds like you're a responsible tax-paying adult, right? That's all we can ask for. You did say you're not opposed to, police, but I want to hear more about the opposition. But let me kind of circle around this incident took place. This incident took place here in West Haven in, was it July?
Yeah, it was July, but what actually piqued my interest, and I actually created the symbol for this organization and what it was meant for, months and months prior to even George Floyd. I was attacked on my own private property here over a civil property dispute. The neighbors had they had disagreement over the property line. I was building a fence, but I ended up being right at the end of all of it. But they called the cops and had them come to our house 6 times in 70 hours, and that's when I started getting offended with the police department here. As I explained to them that it was a civil issue. Clearly, I'm articulating the law to them. I'm not the normal novice. I know a little bit more about it. I've done a lot of research. I don't have any credentials regarding it, but I know well enough my rights as far as a civil issue versus a criminal.
Okay.
And they came there 6 times and then ended up, stealing my phone. And I got it documented temporary with evidence, the video that I was doing on the last 6th visit. And the gentleman, said that I threw him like jujitsu and ended up tasing me. And the video came out after that everything was perjured from beginning to end, almost at a criminal level, because he took my phone and they deleted files while it was in custody. When I got it back from digital forensics, they said that it showed they deleted files while it was in custody.
Okay.
And that's the start of it. And that was like a year prior to George Floyd.
So can I ask though, because Kurt, it's an interesting story, and we really, we were coming in with the conversation about what took place this summer, and I appreciate the background, right? Because it's good for the audience, for all of us to understand what your cause is, right? But you're saying this incident took a year plus earlier. They actually tased you twice?
Yeah. So the same officer that ended up doing it on the west. So fast forward to July now. I'm already have this, case going on, and I have a civil rights attorney hired and all that. And then July comes, we're marching not for against Blue Lives, like you had said. We were marching for, it was a scheduled march too. It was in the newspaper for 2 weeks, and it's always been peaceful for this gentleman, Mubarak Suleiman. He was 19 years old, and they shot him 7 times under the bridge there when they already knew that he was schizophrenic, and they had his car blocked on both doors. And Trooper Brian North and West Haven Police Department were there. And they had his doors blocked, telling him to get out. And they said he reached for what ended up being a butter knife, but he reached while he was in the car in a disabled vehicle that he couldn't get out of. And they shot him 7 times.
So what's that have to do? I'm just so I understand. How's that tie into what we're talking about?
That's what we were marching for in July.
That was in memory, or this group support. How long ago did that happen?
Justice for Mubarak. Yeah, we always did that march, and it was in the paper again that they would offer support and detours. They even said it. West Haven put out a bulletin.
Okay.
So we were really confused when this incident happened, because that woman drove through. The whole thing was videotaped prior, and halfway through you could see they weren't stopping cars, and we called them out a couple times prior to it, like, hey, you're not offering us our detour. We went up and spoke. Because
it's a lot to take in. I want to make sure we all get the story.
Man, I'm sorry.
No. I want to hear what you have to say, right? And so it comes down to the facts, and the facts are going to present themselves. So just let's slow it down a little bit. We'll take it one step at a time. No, you're good, Kurt. You're good, and I appreciate you taking time to express your side of this argument here. Now you had an incident. You said twice with the same police officer. You're trying to tell me that you actually had in West Haven's not a small town. How could you have 2 run-ins with 1 police officer in that town in 2 different incidents? That's just amazing numbers, right?
Well, yes and no. It's relatively small. I'd say the police force is only like 20 to 30 maybe here. Not huge. It's not a huge town, but it's a suburb of New Haven,
Right.
But the thing was, during the live video, the video, they took it down, but there's other reposts of it, but it did like 500,000 views in 4 hours. But I was very, very, very brutal with my mouth. I've grown up a little bit, as far as what I use, as far as vernacular, because I didn't realize, certain words could hurt certain people, even though I don't mean them that way, and I started to learn that after that, and how gross my mouth was during the live, I can admit to that. But at the end of the day, a gross mouth versus brutality it doesn't add up, it doesn't weigh right.
I think in the video I was able to see actually there was a lot of yelling and swearing, and I couldn't get the, obviously some things were blocked out. I do know that there was some other video out there circulating, things I read about. Did you swear? Did you use bad words that day? Did you encourage this action?
Yep. What I did was use a derogatory term for homosexual.
Okay.
And I didn't mean it in that term. I put out a couple of apologies and spoke about it. But most importantly, I took that out of my vocabulary because, growing up in my times, it's no excuse. But I didn't even realize, the impact of what that word could mean, as far as if I was using it just to demean somebody as far as.
So you were calling the officer this during this incident and elevating the situation maybe through that issue?
So, well, here's my thing. I didn't say any of that yet until once the car stopped at the Valero gas station.
Mm-hmm.
The cop finally came there. The officer pulled up about 45 seconds after the car stopped. We didn't attack the woman or touch her, but we were basically forming a citizen's arrest, waiting for the officer to come. We didn't touch her.
You were forming a citizen's arrest?
I was going to attempt to make sure she was getting be charged or arrested or detained and investigate.
Did you guys put your hands on her, or would you have put your hands on her?
Oh, absolutely not. We didn't touch her or block her because that would be equate to kidnapping or something similar to that.
So the blocking or touching is the law, right?
We stopped her vehicle for sure because she just hit two people.
Okay. Well, all right. So I just want to slow walk into that because it really, I think the interesting part of the story, Kurt, is how you have this timeline of a year plus the fence line issue, right? And you talked about that and an incident with one officer, and then this year plus later, George Floyd, all the stuff going on in the country, the divide. You know what? We usually get into politics here, Kurt. I'm going to leave you off that one today. We'll stick with what we're talking about.
We're anti-politics as an organization. We're about what's morally right. So if it comes from the right side, we're with it. If it comes from the left, we're also with it, as long as it's morally cool,
Okay. Well, we'll cover that one. We'll stick to the subject here. And so you go a year and a half later. So first of all, you're going out to support this march. You qualified this march, and you were able to tell me about how this organization or organized event was even endorsed by the West Haven Police Department this past July. You go out, you do this whole thing. What really gets the energy? How many people were there? Set the tone. Tell us why you felt compelled to chase this woman that you're claiming hit two people.
So halfway through the march on the way up to the police station, we had some discussions with officers regarding the lack of security and allowing cars to already drive through us. And we were like, hey, this is sanctioned. Can we, get a little support like you guys offered? And on the way back down, they let it do it again in the same location that we had corrected them before. They let this woman come plowing through and hit this little boy that's about 12 years old and hit this young woman that was about 22, drove through to the light, and we began to chase it. One of my colleagues, actually the other co-founder, he took his personal vehicle and followed her down to the light, and she turned into Valero after that, and we waited for officers.
Okay, so you claim that this woman charged in this incident?
So it's very interesting you say that. She's listed as the victim on the police report, first of all. I want to get that out there.
Okay.
And the second of all, she's was charged about 4 months later, I would say, with a minor driving infraction. And they were saying that there was no victims that came forward, which is a lie. We actually have live footage of the victim going into the police station to give a statement.
Okay.
Which is really crazy. I don't understand how they could even hide that.
So there's a Kurt, I'm gonna stop you here, and I just want to. There sounds like a lot of conspiracy, right? If you're sitting on my seat and I'm hearing what you're saying to me, I'm hearing like conspiracy that when we're going a year and a half back, we have a fence issue. You sound like a really articulate guy, a great guy who's passionate. But how can I understand that this all happened? It just seems a little bit timely wise. Just doesn't seem like it jives together. I mean, I'm believing you. That's what I'm saying.
Well, it's all live. So here's the thing. So here's where it ties into that same cop is while we're on that scene, they let the woman get back in her car to move it, which blows my mind because this woman's accused of, using that vehicle to strike somebody, and the crowd is down there now, which, in my experience, you get back in the car, you get shot, usually.
Have you been shot?
It's called a deadly weapon.
Have you been shot?
No, but I've witnessed people get into cars and get shot by officers. Okay. Yes, after it was used as a weapon.
I only asked though, Kurt, because you're passionate and maybe something happened and it'd be good for us to hear about.
So I got heightened at that point when I'm watching her use a deadly weapon, and also it's evidence of a crime that just was committed in front of 40, 50 people.
Okay.
So I'm livid at that point, and I start elevating, and they park the car. I try to get behind it. We're trying to discuss it with the officer, and then I notice the officer that threw down my wife at the time during that first incident during the fence. And
So
also
I didn't hear
tased
that
me.
part of it. You're claiming that the same officer that was involved in the second incident, the same one that took your phone, threw your wife to the ground?
Oh yeah, that's on my page also. That was the first one from the fence issue. They threw her down right on the ground, and that's what set off my autistic stepson at the time because they threw his mother down. Didn't even charge her with anything, you know.
No, wait. Did she?
That's
Is there a
nothing to do
lawsuit?
with this July incident?
Is there a lawsuit pending on that?
Oh yes, there's three. We have 3 lawsuits pending in West Haven. You know, for a sizable amount of money, which is that's not even what it's about. But what it really is about is you know, what do they call it? Punitive damages, punishment, you know, and most of anything that ever comes out of gains, which is, I can't even call it a gain because honestly, it tore my family apart. She was my wife. She's not anymore. I lost that to all this. I lost a whole bunch of stuff.
When did you were with your wife over this summer, right? You guys were together?
Yeah, but this has just been too much for her. I mean, they ended up launching malicious prosecution charges. I mean, investigations on the officers there because they arrested me 3 different incidents. They arrested me after that as well.
All right, let's slow down on that one too, because I want to stay, because this is really building up what your position is here. And I'm going to tell you, you see the thing, and you know, automatically somebody like me, 21 years in corrections. I had 2 terms as a first selectman, which is like a mayor. I did 1 year or 2 years, 1 term as a state representative. I know you actually have an attorney who's a state senator, Bradley, I believe, correct?
Yes.
And so we'll get into that after, but I think it's interesting because I'm not claiming anything you're saying. I'm not debating you. I'm listening to your story. I just find it very ironic how you could have that same officer in you know, I mean, anyone would hear your story is going to ask the same question. It's just really, really weird how that happens. So
cool. It's a small town, and then when they call out when they had that incident happen, obviously we're at a march, and so there's probably all hands on deck, I would assume.
Did you notice he was there?
Oh, that's what I'm saying. So that's where it started picking up, as I noticed him in the crowd during my live video.
Okay.
And I went to approach him, you know, not with the best language, just as was returned by him, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference between me and him is he's a police officer, and what he said to me in the video, you know, I said, hey, you threw my wife down. You know, I called him all sorts of, you know, fucked up names. Excuse my language. But
speak freely. We're not on any of the shitty networks that censor. So go ahead and rock.
Hey,
and
you
roll.
know, my language was horrible, and like I said, I've tried to, you know, I've taken that kind of derogatory language out of my, you know, vocabulary. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying to him, I'm letting him know about it, and then he tells me, you know, you cried like a bitch last year when I tased you on the live. That's what he said, and then he said, you're nothing but a felon, and like waved his hand like that.
Are you a felon?
Clearly forming his bias.
Are you a felon?
Yeah, absolutely.
You are. Okay, I didn't ask that, and I didn't get into it, but you brought it up. So why did he have incidents with you where felony arrest, or is that all in West Haven as well?
Before these all these First Amendment related arrests. Yep. I haven't been arrested for a crime since 2007.
So that's the last time you were in prison.
Last time, well, no, I've been in because the system holds you in with the paroles and different things like that, but I've never been arrested, you know, or charged with a crime.
What was the longest time you served in prison?
3 flat. I mean, I did 9 years total.
Did 9 years total. I did 21, not quite like you, but you know, either way.
Hey, I appreciate your service, though. I wanted to tell you that too, because not for nothing, no matter what public field you're in, it's a thankless job for the most part, and when done right, and if you're a solid individual, you're always appreciated. And if you're wrong, we want you accountable. But if you're doing the right thing, I appreciate your service.
Well, thank you for that, and I appreciate the fact that you got out of prison. And the worst situation you're in is First Amendment issues. There could be a whole lot more shit you could be dealing with. So let's.
Oh no, I don't have time for that shit anymore.
I'm glad to hear that. But in regards to this, I got to tell you, Kurt, you know, looking into this story, do you feel there's a real disparity in race in maybe in law enforcement and the folks that are affected by the criminal justice system? And do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we operate on is it's not the belief. I mean, there's factual evidence that shows, you know, how, you know, the prison industrial complex is, you know, basically replaced Jim Crow, you know, when it was taken out. And there's evidence and breadcrumbs that lead to that. I really don't want to get into all that. It's not I have guys on my team that know more about that and probably are better to speak on that.
But you do believe a system is biased towards black males in particular? Is that what you're saying?
I believe the system is definitely 100% biased towards men and women of color. 100%. Yeah. Okay. I mean, the numbers don't lie. Okay. I mean,
How many?
It just
Do you know many cops of color, of Black, Hispanic, ethnic folks?
I do, because one of the what they try to do in most of these larger cities that I'm always tend to be in, they do have a diverse police force. Most of them try to, or have been doing that for years and decades over the reform and things like that. But here's the issue that we get back to is I believe reform's not the answer. You can't keep reforming something and expecting different results. We need to fix the root and change how it's designed, in our opinion. Not as far as defunding, I don't mean take money from the police department. What I mean is almost refunding, essentially, or redivesting, or figuring out a new system and set up how a police force should be designed. Think outside the box and change it more of a community aspect from the ground up. And more accountability and clarity, with also giving officers that protection they need from immunity wise. But you got to really limit that and fix that, because that's just an issue.
You bring up immunity. We're definitely going to get into that in a little bit, but I just want to stay on track with this, sort of tying it in. So you get this inspiration to be an activist, and an activist in general, right, Kurt? Your activism is your presence. You're going out. You're being known. You're being seen. Now you are on this situation, this scene here in West Haven with the officer that you already had an issue with. You do see him. You tell the story now. You walked up to him, started getting derogatory comments, and you say he was going back and forth with you. You say you have it on video.
When I asked him those questions, he wouldn't answer, and then I got derogatory. He got derogatory back, and then we kind of departed from each other in the video, and we're just filming it as they're starting. Now we couldn't believe it. They let the woman get back in the car a second time, and now they're trying to form a blockade on the group of people and to allow her to leave the scene, which was unbelievable to me. At least detain her, go question her. That's how you should get them out the scene. It would have diffused it. Figuring it out. Just all you have to do is detain her. Go talk to her like you normally do to any of us. Well, we would have clapped. It would have been diffused right there.
Right.
But
so
they started letting her go. None of us touched an officer. We're staying back. You can see there's like literally 40 tapes. We just we're doing a mass FOIA right now as we speak. We're FOIAing the crap out of them to make sure we get all the other 50 tapes. There's like 40 to 50 different angles. So, but it shows we didn't touch them. I didn't touch the cops at all. I didn't touch any of the officers. I was well within my rights as far as my verbal rights.
Let's stay right.
And then all of a sudden they started beating a girl next to me.
All right, let's slow down though. Let's. I know I want to hear it all, because it's like a lot, right? So to have a conversation. I appreciate you giving it all to us, and we want to talk about it. Again, you have this officer who doing his or her work in the I'm not specific on this. I say they're out here trying to manage the crowd at this, and it sounded like it was fine until a vehicle from what you claim came along. Was the vehicle being attacked? Were folks attacking that vehicle, trying to obstruct that vehicle from getting pass-wise?
Oh no, there's dash cam footage, because dash cam from a personal vehicle that came out. They watched this woman. She left there was a line of cars blocked. And another part of the protest, we were protesting down that center part of the street before that gas station.
Yep.
And she blew past probably 10 cars, like came out of the line, and then came back in and drove right down through the center line, right down through the protest where a mass of people were at.
You call it a protest, but actually you earlier said that this was an event that was routine, right? This was a planned yearly event that took place as organized event?
No, it wasn't yearly. This murder happened with Mubarak Solomon on January of 19. They still didn't rule on if it's going to be they ruled it a homicide.
So this is the first time this organized event took place?
No, we marched probably, it was July? So we probably marched about 7 times since January for Mubarak.
Okay.
That was probably like the 7th one, I'd say.
Okay. So you say you were in the road. I mean, do you think it's appropriate to disrupt the traffic flow, or, this is, leads into what we see, and I did not make any claims, the Antifa style stuff that goes on with property damage. Do you think it's okay to block traffic?
Oh, well, no, especially when it's sanctioned, it's okay. But that was sanctioned. But yes, it's absolutely okay to block traffic. Our whole thing is, if you look at Connecticut, there's been over 700 protests now. Nothing's been violent. The only violence that ever been done, or destructive, by the way, the only destruction or violence that's happened in Connecticut was done by Waterbury PD to people, where they ran over them with horses. Okay. West Haven in our incident, and Stanford when they punched a girl in the face.
So it's okay, and you're destructive. Right. In your opinion, it's okay to be disruptive. That's okay.
Not destructive. Absolutely.
Okay. So disruptive, stopping traffic, being heard, being videoed, being
That's
loud.
it. We're not here to be violent. We're here to be heard.
Any weapons exposed at these events? Anybody carrying anything? Knives, guns, whatever?
So there's no weapons. Some people are armed, I guess, if they want to be, but
Like how?
I've
With
never
what?
personally seen any weapons.
You've never
You know,
carried a
people,
weapon
this is
to one of these?
America. People have Second Amendment rights. I'm just unaware of them.
Have you ever carried a weapon to any of these events in your
No,
hands?
absolutely not.
No video of you doing that.
No. The only thing I've ever had, as far as that could be misconstrued as a weapon, and it wasn't. It's an item of Americana. Is I have a Louisville Slugger bat that's American, and I have an American flag that is attached to it that's my flagpole, and it's an American flag attached to it upside down. I don't use it as a weapon.
But that could be perceived as a weapon. I mean, really, honestly, a bat.
Well, I mean, so can a pen. I mean, I know people that can stab somebody in the neck and kill them. That could be
I've
perceived
seen
as a pen.
stabbings
as
with
a
pens
weapon.
in the prison. I know what you mean. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anything could be perceived as a weapon.
Well, I mean,
but was it intentionally designed as a weapon? Absolutely not.
Did you ever swing
Well,
that bat at any of the places you went to or any of that stuff?
Oh, absolutely. I've never struck anybody. I've never hit anybody. Nothing. I'm against that.
Okay.
Totally against it.
How many police officers do you think died in this country? Do you know the numbers on stats with that stuff this year alone?
Oh no, I do not, sir. That'd be nice to know.
281 today. 281. Okay. It's up about by 70 plus probably over last year's numbers. What do you think when you hear me ask that question? I'm just wondering, what's that make you feel like when I tell you that many more police officers dying in the country, and really the civil unrest that's going on, people are dying, right? It's a sad time.
I feel for the families of those officers. I feel for the people affected by those deaths of those officers. I would never be brash or a horrible person to say somebody deserves to die. There's no but to that sentence either, because they died in the line of duty and they deserve that respect. At the end of the day, that's an issue, and we got to fix that in the root issues that, our organization, that's what we're about, is fixing the root issues, with education and different things like that. And then also attacking the oppression at the top, trying to, two-prong approach, and we can come to a happy medium. But, to me, a bigger issue, not that that's not an issue, because 70 plus on top of that, that's a huge number. That's almost 100% increase, and that's not okay.
Got a couple weeks left.
1,000 deaths by police officers in the most progressive country, in the world. That's not okay.
Right. Listen, I'm not.
There's better ways for both sides.
There's no argument that there's reason to question. In corrections, we had internal affairs and police departments. There's positions of authority within those things to take these claims on. Right. I think the system works, and I hear what you're saying, and I just don't. I have a hard time wrapping my head around blame or pointing fingers to total agency. The one thing, and I'll make as a comment, Kurt, you were pretty interesting. You really didn't sound sympathetic for an officer in the way you talked, and I'm not trying to create an issue. I'm just saying that's how I took it.
Well, I mean, my words were pretty quite clear on that. I said I do respect their service and appreciate that sacrifice. So there was nothing in my words. I mean, too sympathetic. I mean, am I gonna, go out of the way to go to their funeral? I don't know them. No. Mm-hmm. Will I honor them if I had a chance and know the officer personally and things like that, and he's in my community and I would know him? Of course, I would honor him, or feel, I guess, come off more sympathetic to you. But I mean, I don't know these people from a hole in the wall. I don't know the people that I'm fighting from for a hole in the wall, but what I do know is right is right. And if these officers died in vain, then they need their deaths need to be handled with justice as well.
Okay.
Absolutely. The sword shouldn't fall on just one side. It should fall on all sides. I'm about accountability, but we need it. It's time for everybody to look in the mirror, and it's time for everybody to say, hey, maybe I'm not being as accountable as I can be, and maybe I should. And, it's a humble pie sometimes, considering what side is what side, but we're all on the same side because we're humans. And we'll get to that happy medium where I believe all lives will matter. And, I would love the day when I could say that. But right now, all lives to me aren't the bigger issue. The bigger issue is the direct lives that are being attacked at a disproportionate number and rate.
When you say disproportionate,
And once
tell me
that
what
happens,
those
all
rates
lives
are.
matter, and that would be great.
What's those numbers? I mean, you said that again, and the population counts. If you want to just quote those numbers, I'd love to hear them.
Well, I don't have the statistics on hand. I'm not going to make outlandish statements about it,
Right.
but I have come across them before and know they are disproportionate for sure.
Mhm.
And it goes by more per capita, and that's what people tend to not understand. It's those numbers are based off of statistics and per capita, so it may not seem as if you just hear it, but for 100% for sure, it is a disproportionate rate. And
Do you think
there is numbers out
how
there.
many
You can look it
black
up.
men and boys were killed in this country as of December 13th, 2020? How many were shot or killed at the hands of their own actions or actions of others during arrest? How many do you think that is?
I mean, I don't know those numbers. You have these
97.
numbers.
Yeah, 97. 97.
In the whole United States.
Yeah. Black men and boys killed by police is what it's listed, updated on December 13th, 2020. So, you talk about proportion of numbers just based on that alone. And by the way, just for the record, for the listeners and, Kurt, just us talking here, many of the people who were killed in the line of duty as an officer were people of color, were people of mixed race. So I just wanted to make sure we make some equalities to those numbers. That's the total number this year in America, Kurt.
And what was that statistic again? Can you say
97 black men and boys were killed this year. That's the title of it.
Oh, but so I mean that's pretty vague.
Yeah, no, it's a statistic. It's numbers. It's just statistics. I mean, we talk statistics.
Yeah, but how were they killed? That's what I'm saying.
Well, we can break it down. I mean, I'd probably have to read the entire, dictionary.
Yeah.
There's a big article here.
I bet you either
the question is police action, though, right? You're gonna.
Oh, police action is.
Well, this is included with police contact. So, and you've been around folks that get arrested or get handcuffed, and many times actions sort of determine or reactions are determined by actions, right? And so if you have an issue or an incident taking place, it's hard to pick through these 97 incidents. Did somebody draw a gun versus somebody that pulled out a bag of candy? I don't know. Can't break it down, but I know this much.
Well, I mean,
those numbers are low in comparison.
If I was instituting a training program into a police force, I wouldn't train to fear for your life constantly, because that creates a bad atmosphere. As
281 people are dead, Kurt. You got it.
People getting shot over a bag of candy.
Yeah, but 281 people have been killed in the line of duty serving. Those numbers are, and that's why I, as a trained person with carrying a weapon, when I kicked doors in with this fugitive task force, we wanted to be ahead of the game. I don't want someone pulling a gun on me or attacking me, and we want to take that individual in safely. That's how I trained, and that's how I believe.
I know, I get that. That's how you were trained, though, and that's the fundamental issue is the training. You get what I mean? So you're trained that way, and I get that, and that is what you have to do.
Right.
But that's wrong. That's where I stand at. That training is wrong because in most progressive countries, if you look at some of their laws, you can't officer can't shoot you until they're almost being shot at. They can have a gun drawn on them and not get shot.
Just what countries are you referring to?
I'll have to look it up. It's either over in the Netherlands or somewhere in the islands.
European-based countries where they're a little more lax in the way that the police are allowed to work.
Yeah, I mean, Netherlands, you get 5 years of training. I mean, 5 years of schooling,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely different concept. So 97 black men and women, black men or boys listed here with police contact, definitely compared to 281. I want to get into a little bit back to the issue that took place. You made a point about this vehicle, and I just wanted to go back into this. You say this vehicle took itself out of line. You have video, or there's claim of a dash video.
Oh, there's plenty of video, yeah.
Okay, and this individual takes off. What scared this individual this way?
Oh no, she wasn't scared. She was pissed.
She was pissed. So you're saying that's what she did.
She ended up stopping out of her own volition, basically, because we didn't force her into the gas station.
Mm-hmm.
She ended up stopping and she got out. She wasn't scared for sure. Mm-hmm. And that's what our issue was. We could see she lined right up with the officer when she got there. She had the Blue Lives sticker on her car, and they're sitting here shuttling her away.
Okay. So
from a scene of a crime where her car was just used as a weapon. Like, are you kidding me? I was beyond myself. Couldn't believe it.
Have you ever been in a car where you were surrounded by people and scared, or what? I mean, you're saying she was angry. Do you think she could have been heightened?
She started off 100 yards away from the protest. That's what I'm saying. She broke rank in the line of cars she was in 20 cars back to drive down an open road down a center to go through a group of people. It was insane. Look, I mean, you can see the video.
Do you think possibly that maybe
she could have turned around?
Corporate media.
She had plenty of room to turn around if she was getting out of the car line, you know?
Yeah. And I appreciate it. And, COVID, this whole year, there's a lot of anxiety in people. I mean, the news, corporate media, they portray this, we saw a lot of bad during this summer, right? That took place after George Floyd. Do you think possibly maybe she was nervous because of all the stuff she gets fed on TV?
Well, hey, that's all a possibility, of course. However, like I said, to initiate that being scared, you wouldn't drive towards the people. She would have turned around. She had every opportunity. Right. And instead, she drove around 20 plus cars in back of her, whatever, 10 cars. It was a long way. It was at least 100 yards. Okay. And she drove down the open road towards the protest.
Okay. So that takes place. You now encounter your friend from the past, and I'm being a little sarcastic, obviously, but this officer that you knew from the past.
Michael Croce, yeah.
Officer Croce?
Croce, yeah.
How many years on the force for Officer Croce?
I have that actually somewhere. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Okay. Long enough that you've had an incident in 2 years or year plus change. And Matt,
actually, what's funny is I have 3. There's another video of him the 2 days before the first tasing, because I showed him my map. On that 4th visit, how I told you they came 6 times in 70 hours. Mm-hmm. On the 4th visit, I have a 10-minute conversation with him to show him the map and actually gave him the time. And he didn't like how I spoke to him then, because I told him, listen, I don't have to show you nothing. But I know that's a little offensive, but it's the 4th visit and I have in-laws over for the weekend. It was a little oppressive at that point. I was pissed. I know, like, it's a civil issue. I already told the cops, Mm-hmm. And so I told him, I showed him the map, and he's like, oh, I agree. It's a civil issue. And then 2 calls later, he's the one tasing me that night.
Do you enjoy talking back to authority? Because you seem like you smile a little bit when you do it.
No, because I'm a little brash with it. And the reason I smile is to soften the blow when I'm speaking to you, because it's generally viewed like that as a bad thing. However, you got to understand the context of some things. Is the context in there was, by the time I started getting a little not vulgar, but stern and speaking with authority that I do have, because he is a public servant, and now he's harassing at this point. And I'm not going to go that far to call him harassing, but I will let him know, mm-hmm. Sir, I don't have to show you nothing. And that's what that video says. But I said, here, I'm going to give you the map. I offered it. I just wanted them to be done. And he agreed that it was civil. He said, if it wasn't civil, I would tell you.
Was the girl, was the driver of the car, though, was she Hispanic, black, or white? I don't know what she's listed at. I didn't see any police reports. Do you have any information?
Yeah, she was white and Hispanic listed on the thing, but I don't know. And her name.
I heard she was Hispanic, so I think that a lot of times we hear these comments about, hey, Kev, if it was 2 white people, this actually was a girl of she had a background of Hispanic that was listed. I did read that, but I didn't know. That's why I want to ask.
Well, she's listed as white on the police report.
Oh, okay.
And that might be her license. Yeah. But her name is the thing that throws it off, because it's like Blanquita or something.
But she yeah. I mean, my question is, because a lot of times in these conversations, we put race instead of the people's actions, right? And sometimes maybe we create something out of something basically on race. I don't know. Do you think there's a racial divide, though, amongst ethnic groups, or is it more economically? In other words, do you think there's just as many poor white people that are dealing with the same issues?
I'm not familiar on the numbers, but I know it's an iniquity that's happening for sure. I don't know the numbers on that, so I mean, I'm the wrong person to ask.
No, it's fine. And you're an interesting guy. You have a comment, so we'll have this conversation. And right from the get-go, Kurt, I'm probably on the defense, right, of law enforcement, and there's no doubt I want to get to the truth, and I certainly hope that there's a way to get a pathway here for you to be correctly given your opportunity to be heard. And we talked a little bit about your connection to your the officer the Senator Bradley of the state of Connecticut, who is actually taken on as a civil rights lawyer. He's taken on this case. Is that correct, sir?
Yeah, but not as a civil rights lawyer. He took it on as a criminal defense attorney.
Because you were charged in this incident. And what was the actual charges, Kurt? I'm sorry, I should have brought that up.
Oh, gee, I have a total of 2 or 3 assaults on police, or 2 assaults on police they gave me on both incidents when I didn't touch them. And then inciting a riot on the July 5th, and then a whole bunch of misdemeanor craps. And I mean, it's like 22 charges total, a couple felonies.
Are you at all nervous that you might go back to prison?
No, not at all. I mean, I'm it's like a total of 90 years of charges. I'm about to go to trial. I know it's sick. It's two days ago they filed a motion, and we're gonna knock the motion out because it's unconstitutional. But they want to bar me from speaking bad about West Haven or speaking the truth, but only in court proceedings. And they're trying to modify my bond right now.
Okay.
But it's unconstitutional. We got some of the biggest lawyers in the state that agreed on that.
So your attorney though is a senator in the state of Connecticut. He's also taken on this criminal defense case, and I did get a chance to hear the video. Very articulate fellow, Bridgeport, I believe. Correct? Is that where he's from?
Yeah.
Okay. But he comes out swinging it. Do you find it a little ironic that this one of the same senators who actually voted on the police accountability bill would take this charge on? Does it sound like he's maybe seeking a little more celebrity status than actually your cause?
No, absolutely not. Because I actually know him for a long time prior to that, and he's known in Bridgeport prior to that for working in the school board and things like that before he was a senator. But he's always been for the people. And then when he became a lawyer, him and his brothers, they own a couple firms. They're for the people. They always help the immigrant populations. They help the the underfunded populations that can't afford attorney services from a good one. He's really been a fighter for the people, from my experience. And as far as the celebrity status, like I said, I already knew him prior to these incidents. He reached out through one of my others. Was it Tony Barr? He was a representative, a state rep before or something, or councilman. I forget what he was, but he had a title before over there.
So he actually, Mr. Bradley, Senator Bradley, your representative, Attorney Bradley, reached out to you to get this case.
I reached out through Tony, my friend Tony Barr, a good friend, which is a family member of his, reached out.
Oh, okay.
I know him a little.
So just connected you guys, and he connected you guys, and do you feel though? Again, back to the question. This is one of the senators that stood up and really put his heart into his testimony. Every time he speaks, I've heard him. I didn't serve with him, I had the pleasure, but he also was instrumental in this police accountability bill here in Connecticut. Do you have any of that has come up before? Anyone's asked that question of you guys?
Oh, well, we knew about it before, because obviously he was working on it prior to that July 5th, because that was right around the time, you know what I mean? That was the hot time for that. And he was working feverishly on that. But, I have to put a little context on that real quick, because the reason why I needed him as an attorney is I already had a civil rights attorney retained, William Palmieri out of New Haven. And he ran off with my $13,000, and I'm currently, grieving that to get the money out of that fund.
So Kurt, you not only in this whole situation, you get an attorney who takes $13,000 from you. I gotta tell you, dude, I'm not high right now, but I feel like we should be smoking a bone, because I don't know how I'm supposed to believe all this. How?
Hey,
it just doesn't sound normal.
You could check it out. William Palmieri turned out, when that first incident happened, when I hired him back for the property incident, he was under indictment already, and I didn't know that. And he didn't tell me. And he was under indictment for tax evasion and for IOLTA fund violations. And right before that incident in July, right before that, it comes out in the paper that he's getting sentenced to 6 months home confinement. I see his name. I'm like, what the fuck? What the hell?
Were you able to get your money back?
3 years probation, but they were letting him retain his law license. And I said, excuse me, he only went to 5 court dates, has done no motions, did nothing in the civil aspect of the retainer. But he said I owed him all that money, and he took off.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, Kurt, you definitely turn out an interesting story here.
We got a lot here, man. We should have a couple shows.
We probably should, and we probably will have you back certainly to kind of drill down into some of this stuff. It's an introduction. I'm not going to sit here and definitely have this debate with you, because although I have a hard time believing some of the things that I'm reading and some of the things I'm hearing, I might be prejudiced from my perspective based on my background. That's fair.
Yeah,
That's honest.
I appreciate you saying that. You know what? That's very big of you. You don't get that a lot from the other side. I appreciate that, because that's the kind of guy I am. Well, I'll admit that if maybe, I may be a little biased on this. That is top shelf of you.
Well, it's honest, and that's how we have an honest conversation. We don't have to hate each other. Maybe our backgrounds from our previous lives we can understand. Even when you don't like somebody, you got to get along with them, right? You got to figure a way out. So
sometimes.
I'm really interested in now. You get arrested, you get tased. You're now you go to, obviously, I assume you went to jail for a short amount of time on this incident, or you were bonded quickly.
Yeah. Well, so like I said, so they started beating this girl in front of me when the car was leaving finally. and I'm filming it on wide angle. I'm 10 feet away from the cop, which is actually the federal law. There's case law for that. Well, about 10 feet away, and I'm filming with the wide angle lens, and the officer that I have problems with comes out of nowhere and blindsides me and breaks my spine was fractured. I didn't know my arm was fractured. So I thought that's a hospital. And while I'm on the ground, he maces me while I have three cops on top of me. And my friend catches that in the video. And he said, "Why are you macing?" He said, "He's resistance."
Hey, Kurt, can you try to fix I don't know if you can fix the phone or we're having a bad stream. To see if that can, let's see. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. You're a little bit, I don't know. It's a little bit, I'm going to try to fix here. Can you talk again, Kurt?
Is that better?
It's a little bit like you're in a can. So maybe it's just the streaming. Yeah. So we'll go with that. But so we'll continue to go, Kurt, just basically talking to you about that incident. You get tased by the officer. But let me just focus on the tasing. Much better than getting shot, right?
I've never been shot, but
right.
I can imagine it's better than that. But I mean, they shot me right in my spine. It sucked. They shot me in a spot where the doctor had to take it out. They couldn't take it out.
Did you deserve to get tased because of your actions?
Absolutely not. 100%.
Do you think your actions at all caused you to be arrested?
No, 100% no. I was videotaping a bystander when they hit me.
You didn't get in anybody's way with a phone or anything like that. You're saying that you were.
No, 100% no. I was 10 feet away and filming wide angle lens. You could see the other films. I was 10 feet away from them beating the girl and arresting her. And then the guy took that option while the eyes were off of me or whatever.
Do you think you were amping up the rest of the crowd, and maybe the concern was, hey, you need to stop, and maybe that was what the attempt was by the officer?
Absolutely not, because they knew what they could do. They shouldn't have let that. Okay, I got a question for you real quick. Is it not a deadly weapon? Isn't it evidence if they were accused of hitting somebody right away?
You mean a weapon like a what? The bat?
Isn't that clear evidence once it was accused by multiple people just striking two people with a car?
Well, there's a very good reason for that to be investigated. I also think that you have to, right, Kurt? So if I'm on the scene and I'm in control or I'm an officer there, my first thought is to immediately control the safety. So I think the first thing I would do is try to get that individual that's all this negative focus on out of there. We got the plate, we got the identity. She doesn't have, whatever. Let's investigate and get treatment for the people that were hurt. I think I would do the same thing. I think anyone in that practice would as well.
Even though that woman just got up, just hit
I didn't say she was getting away. We were going to go talk to her.
You would let her drive the
100%.
weapon again?
Well, hit someone in a crowded group of people. We don't know exactly, right? Real time is real time. Let's do the investigation. See, I think
exactly. I would detain them and investigate.
Well, you don't have the right to detain them, and the police don't have the right to illegally detain somebody. They have the right to investigate anything they think is appropriate. I'm kind of thinking
that's a Terry stop. They have it, Terry versus Ohio, that allows them to stop them right now when we told them a crime.
That's not the question of whether or not it's a judgment call of the situation. And Kurt, you're in the middle of a situation where everyone's amped up and excited. Maybe their concept was get this individual out of here. We'll talk to her down the road, and we'll deal with this. And it sounds like that's what they were trying to do until some folks got involved, and obviously you were one of them.
Well, yeah, I didn't touch an officer, and like I said, they started beating a woman next to me, and I'm filming that, and then they hit me on the side, and maced me and tased me all while I'm down, which is ridiculous. And it's the same cop brutalizing me. And he called me an N-word lover. He said, "Cry now, N-word lover," right in my ear when he maced me. He took my hat off.
Who heard that?
Who heard that?
Yeah,
me and my associate.
Your associate.
Yeah.
Who's your associate? That another organizer, another person who was there, or it's just you say associate, someone else that was there you met?
No, people that I work with.
So in your group, your organized group that goes out and does some protesting, this individual heard that, and that is your witness to this claim.
Yeah.
And you think that's going to fly?
Well, considering that we have Croce on about 40 counts of perjury on his first statement, yeah, it's going to fly pretty easy because his word's worth crap.
Okay. You think that's going to be an easy one to prove that was said in addition to the other claims that you feel are
that's for a civil court to decide.
Okay. But that's where you are, though. You're comfortable where that lies and your position there. So let's,
I mean, I know what it was because the year before he told me, remember, I was white.
Okay, so it carries over from year to year, almost
Yeah.
similar conversation with.
It's malicious. It seems to be malicious, like the prosecutor in Milford said.
Okay, and do you think though possibly it could be if we were taking you out of the scene and let's say you and I are just sitting on a bench talking about something that happened in this situation. You're not involved. I'm not involved, and we actually logically approach this. Do you think it's logical to assume that maybe you were participating and agitating that day? In Wednesday, that down in July in West Haven this year?
That's not my stance at all. I think that's
and it's a fair question though, right?
Yeah. Well, it's a fair question. Absolutely. Any question is fair, but I 100%, I don't agree with that at all.
Okay.
Don't agree with that at all because I'll tell you what, police brutality is at the point where it's intolerable. Just like, like the attorney said, black and white, we're not going to tolerate that shit no more. You got the wrong generation. This generation has an optics game that's unbelievable that can shut you down real freaking fast. Okay. And that's what we're going to use to win this fight, to change this whole tide that's going to happen. And that's it. It's going to change because what's morally right is what's morally right. We have it in our bones. It's in our bones.
Would you like to see police minimized in the fact of staffing numbers, their presence in communities? Do you think that's the right move?
It needs to be demilitarized. They don't need the certain weaponry they have in certain places. It becomes a standing army, which is a police state, as our organization states.
And your organization is against that?
Oh, absolutely. I don't want militarized police in my neighborhood. Nope. I mean, there should be. I'm not the guy. We would like to have guys like you or people that know it, that are in that field, to figure out a good way to have maybe centralized locations, or what would be operate best. If you can't have it that way, what's the next option? And we need guys like you that know that shit to come up with those ideas.
So that on that same vein, there are bad guys.
In our opinion, and yeah, there's
bad guys with bad stuff out there that
absolutely.
You bring a knife to a gunfight, and we know the old saying, you're gonna get your ass kicked. So you gotta be ready.
That's the cowboy United States style, huh?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's true too. I mean, you've seen, I'm sure, a couple incidents in your life. We all have, wherever we've been, where some dangerous things happen. And thank God, I've seen a lot more opportunities where police officers do exactly their job. There's nothing wrong with what they've done. And someone gets arrested, and quite frankly, in some cases, people die. People die at the hands of their own actions. I mean, we could refer to Michael Jones, right? Or this go back to Ferguson. And the grand jury this year did not indict that officer, right? It went a long time, and they proved with many, just like the same folks you're relying on with the videos. There was so much proof and evidence that Michael Brown, was actually attacking that officer, trying to go for his gun. And think back in our world, Kurt. Back then, it was President Obama in office, and this was a big deal, and it really inspired the Black Lives Movement across this country. Any comments on that emotion that kind of swept the country?
Well, I mean, it's people not trying to tolerate it anymore. And you're saying they got acquitted. And that's one of the key issues, like I said, just like the training's at fault.
Should he not have been acquitted?
So you're saying, how I said the training's at fault for how the officers are trained to, always kill, always this, or always fear. It's the same concept there. It's the training, and that's the issue.
So do you think that officer should have been acquitted is my question, or you think
no you know what? That's the whole thing, is that the laws are wrong.
Okay.
The qualified immunity is protecting him. That's the issue that needs to be attacked. Because then once that law changed,
he was attacked.
The grand jury can indict officers like that, and they're starting to this year. You've seen it.
We'll get into that. We'll get
2 years ago right now.
We'll get into that. But so he was attacked. We're talking about the Michael Brown incident took place in Ferguson. The police officer defended himself, shot and stopped the actions of the individual who was eyewitness from several folks. By the way,
I'll never support an officer shooting somebody else, a citizen, period.
So you know what? I'm glad that we're getting here, right? So we're finally playing, let's put it on the table, which I appreciate, Kurt, but you're really saying you really don't support police at all. And you kind of, because you just said that. You just said that.
I don't want them shooting people. That's not a unreasonable, request. I don't want them killing people anymore.
Well,
I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with their tactics. I'm not happy with their quotas. I'm not happy with them being against America.
Do you not think that, though, the actions of someone else sometimes determines that? a police officer is responding to an issue, an incident. Like you just said, you wanted that driver detained right there. You wanted her taken under control, but yet you're kind of saying you don't want that for other issues. It doesn't make sense.
No, I don't want murder, I said.
Yeah, but if say somebody takes a gun or a knife or something, there's an attack. How do you recommend that's remedied if someone's actions determines that to happen?
Here, seriously, really? If a guy has a knife, they shouldn't be shot by an officer. They should either back up or they should be able to learn taught how to fight him. And it's called, if you get hurt, it's called too bad. That's your job. You got to figure it out. That's part of the risk you're taking.
Actually,
I appreciate that sacrifice. I will donate to the causes for that, especially if that happened that way and you're defending yourself against a knife wielding suspect. It is what it is. I don't believe they should be killing them. They should be trained better to be able to disarm them, because I know people that can take a knife out of your hand or a gun real fucking fast.
Okay. Well, that's you know what? There's probably people that can do both, but there's a thing called the tools drill, and in training, you got about 12 to 14 feet, or you actually get killed by a knife, even with a weapon on your side. We are trained to shoot center mash. We shoot the center mass. We shoot 2 to the body and 1 to the head, in order to stop that action. And that's a training, even in a knife wielding subject. That's what you get trained to do.
Bad training, exactly what I'm saying.
I don't actually, I'm going home, man. I didn't put the knife in the bad guy's hand. How can you tell a police officer who's protecting himself and others that he's done the wrong thing? And this is the mentality.
Because when he wears that uniform, he's below a U.S. citizen. He's a servant.
That's interesting. So because, in your opinion, his servant status, he should then, or she should be, or that individual, white, black, or whatever, they're wearing blue, should be denied the right to protect themselves?
Connecticut doesn't have, we have the duties of retreat in Connecticut. What are you talking about?
Duties of retreat when possible. When you're in the action of a law enforcement professional, you also have the responsibility of stopping action. That is a sworn, there's a sworn, well, there's, so you're talking 2 different ones, right? So it's like, let's stay in the lane of law enforcement. I got to tell you, I appreciate the conversation, Kurt. I do want to say that I think that from the outside looking in, I think you had some energy to be involved in this issue in West Haven, where maybe you purposely wanted to maybe come across this police officer again. And it's a question. It's not, I'm not saying I know anything. I'm asking a question.
Oh, no, I wasn't looking for that officer. Like I said, I've marched probably 6 times before that for Mubarak. What I did is I actually spoke against the mayor at the mayoral debate, and that was it November 2019. Okay. And I said the same thing. I said, what do we need to have body cameras here? Somebody to get killed. And then a month later, Mubarak was killed. You know, I've been on this social justice here since that incident happened to me at my house, and I witnessed it when they told my wife at the time. They told her that she was a renter, and I can only assume that's because she wasn't white. And then they told me, remember, I was white, so that's what made me know that's what the hell they were talking about. And I'm like, oh, now this is that kind of party here. I get it.
So we're winding down. We only have a few minutes left. It's been an interesting conversation with you. I'd love to give you and Senator Bradley an opportunity to come on if you'd like. Talk about the case again, maybe see if there's an opportunity where we can get a little bit drill down a little deeper into the details. Understand, I'm going to do my show this Friday like I do each and every week, Kurt. I recommend you check it out. We'll be back to the blue, Southeastern Connecticut. And,
I've already liked and followed you for a week now, man.
Thank you, man. Well, I'm sorry. I'm one of those presumptuous. I'm going to Hollywood, bro. I don't pay attention to that shit. But
I hear that.
No, but I appreciate you doing that. And listen, I'm having a hard time taking it all in, dude. I'm being honest with you, but we're gonna have this conversation.
It's deep. It's deep, man. It's really fucking deep.
It's smelling like conspiracy theory for a lot, right?
Yeah, it's fact.
I hear you, but you've heard that, right? People have said when I hear this, A, B, and C, and the years that it plays out, it sounds conspiracy theory for most. But I appreciate you coming on today, Kurt. It's been a good show. Anything on the way out? You want to go? Tell anybody to go to a GoFundMe page to help you. Anything else?
We fund ourselves right now, but eventually we're going to be launching, spots to donate. But right now,
I have a GoFundMe page for you.
Privately nonprofit.
I got a GoFundMe page for you. I found it. Do you still have that page up?
That's an old page that somebody created for me when my back was injured when I first got hurt.
Oh, okay. All right. So that's not for you now.
No, that was not active anymore.
Okay. So anyways, any websites or Facebook pages quickly?
Citizensopposedtopolicestates.com. Citizens Opposed to Police States, the page on Facebook. Kurt Erickson, my personal page. I have tons of videos. It's open to the public. You don't have to be my friend.
Okay.
We have West Haven Police Department that follows it. We have the Milford prosecutors that follow it.
Okay.
Detective D'Amico follows it.
All right.
You know, all the officers, they love our page.
Okay. Well, listen, I appreciate it. We're going to cut off with you now. Thank you, Kurt. I'll talk to you off air and we'll set you up for the next meeting. Okay. Thank you guys for tuning in today to this great show. I can't think of a better topic to have, honestly, because drilling down on fake news for News Rocky, there's a lot of things in that conversation that Kurt and I just had. I have a hard time believing. I have a hard time believing that the incidents that took place during this incident were all one-sided. But you know what? The offer's out there to him and Senator Bradley, the senator, quite frankly, that is actually helping this individual out in this case, and also the same senator that fought for the police reform bill in Hartford. I think that speaks a little bit concerning to most folks around politics. We will get back to the subject on News Rocky. Guys, tune in tomorrow. We're going to be back 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. from the Pie Hop studio right here in downtown Norwich. News Rocky coming to you each and every day. The Helms Media Group. Loving what we're doing, guys. See you tomorrow. Get in the ring.